I'm going to go ahead and show you this video of Glenn Beck as he's talking about coronavirus. You're going to see him basically blame Obama for a lack of supplies. Keep in mind, Glenn Beck, this is a guy who Jon Stewart said, this is a guy who says what people who aren't thinking are thinking. It's a guy that's basically a joke. A lot of people don't take him serious, but he does have a following. He has somewhat of a base. Let's go ahead and watch this clip of Glenn Beck.
So no big deal. No big deal. So your face mask could be effective for 7 days, but don't worry about it. The fact check from USA Today I found interesting. Finally, they got around to this one. Did Obama deplete U.S. national stockpiles of N95 masks? Did you hear this? If you're a conservative, you probably heard this. If you're a liberal, you probably didn't hear this. Yes, according to USA Today, now they've finally taken up the task. He geared us up for swine flu and hurricane and flooding cleanup operations in 2009 and then again in 2012. They used all the N95 masks, or a lot of them, and then never put them back in stockpile. So didn't replenish. That's one of the reasons why Donald Trump, he's so bad, we don't have any masks. Yeah, that would be somebody didn't put more on the shelf. That would be Barack Obama.
Yeah, there actually is an interesting story today, too, about how George W. Bush was obsessed with pandemics. He read the 1918 flu pandemic book, which we've talked about before. It's a pretty, it's probably the
great
biggest
influenza. It's great.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest, well-known, best-known book about 1918 flu.
Yeah.
And he read it and was like, look, this is serious. We need to be prepared for it even when we don't see it coming, because right around when it hits, it's going to be too late. And he spent tons of time and resources preparing the U.S. government for this. And then it was whittled away by, largely Obama. I mean, it was really a big deal to Bush personally. It was abandoned once Obama took over. And, you could make the argument that Trump should have, brought all these things back in his first 3 years. There's not, there's no blameless person here overall, but still, Obama seems to be the one who really did not prioritize this as much as you would have hoped throughout this, and it's costing.
Well, it didn't prioritize, quite honestly, anything. I mean, when it comes to disaster, you don't have a stockpile and then not replenish it. If you're using it, you have to, at the end, go back and replenish, and they didn't. And I don't blame Donald Trump for that, and I don't blame Obama for not carrying through with George Bush's thing. I do blame him or his administration for not replenishing it. That's your responsibility. I mean, we all learned that with our moms. Can somebody, you just want to replace the toilet paper, or is that all I live for, is just replacing everybody's toilet paper? There's a new roll underneath the sink. I mean, we all got that from our mom. That's exactly what Barack Obama should have heard. Latest casualty, as we told you earlier today, Corona beer has officially stopped production. No, it's not that we're that stupid. Mexico has finally gotten a clue and said that that's not an essential business. I think there'd be a lot of people that would disagree with that, but they have shuttered the beer business. Japan and Hong Kong may declare a new state of emergency because the virus has re-emerged. Both Japan and Hong Kong saw new waves of COVID-19 cases as travel and work restrictions were lifted about 10 days ago. This couldn't be worse news. And then the Surgeon General came out and said this is going to be the hardest and saddest for most Americans' lives. He said this is going to be the grimmest period of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. This is quote.
Okay, now, before I go further, understand that Obama is not my favorite president. I have many criticisms of the man, from his expansion of the Patriot Act to the way that he handled the 2008 financial crisis, not being harsher on these banks, and the fact that he had top people in his administration who had been CEOs of some of the biggest financial institutions like Goldman Sachs and others. But with that being said, blaming Obama for a shortage of supplies is beyond ridiculous. Understand that Trump has been president for 3 years. So let's go off the logic of some of these conservatives. The economy is doing great, and all of that's on Trump. None of it's on Obama. But then we don't have the medical supplies, and keep in mind, while that happens, Trump cut funding for the Center of Disease Control last year, and he's been downplaying the virus up until about March. And then they try to spin and make it seem like it's Obama's fault. Understand that Glenn Beck is a straight up spin doctor. He's a professional spin doctor. The billionaire class and the wealthiest people in this country love Glenn Beck because he convinces people to vote in a way that is beneficial for the wealthiest people in the country. Glenn Beck, he said that Bernie Sanders was a communist and a Nazi. Okay. Understand Bernie Sanders is Jewish. How could he be a Nazi if he's Jewish? There were communists and Nazis fighting in the streets of Germany back in the 1930s. So which one is it? Someone might call him a communist. Okay, that's one argument. But you can't say that he's both a communist and a Nazi. People like Glenn Beck, they just say whatever they possibly can without always doing accurate research. People like Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin. And you really look at what they're saying, it oftentimes doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Thanks for watching.